All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention. And welcome back to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. I am here with my co-hosts, none other than the master of all men. You know, the women that they melt in his hands, and we're not talking like milk duds or anything like that. We've got the Predator, Don Frye, and his co-host here, Dan to be Severn. Toxic Masculinity. We're here to offend, defend anybody and everybody. These are simply our opinions. If you get your butt hurt, well, put on your man panties here and move along here right now. We're not here for the pussification of this world. We're here to try to make men men. And our special guest here today is none other than Frank Jasper, but I didn't really know him as Frank Jasper. I mean, when we were talking about the movie Vision Quest, I simply knew him as that character Shoots.
The dastardly evil character, you know, invincible. What? Yeah, you were. Come on, man. You're carrying a log on your shoulders up and down. You're just a bad dude. Shit.
Yep. But I think the line that you said again, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Frank, was when you look at what was the actor's name that did
Matthew Modine? Loudon Swain was the character's name.
But what was his name? What was his name?
Loudon Swain was his character's name.
Yeah, Loudon Swain. When you look at Loudon Swain, I think really all you said was, "Are you going to make weight?" I think that was really your line there to him.
I hope you make it, right?
I said, well, I said, think you'll make the weight. And he says, I hope so. And I said, I hope so too.
Yeah.
But hey, I have to address this. I have to address this with Don because, he said I was the evil guy, the mean guy. And it was like, or the weird guy or the badass guy in there. Yeah, I was tough. Yeah, I was like just reflecting what usual wrestlers go through and what they have to put in to actually show up at a state, tournament to win it. You're going to have to go the extra mile. I'm just serious, straight on wrestling head. Now, Matthew Modine's character, Loudon Swain, he was sniffing a girl's panties,
getting laid,
trying to force himself on her. I mean, how many inappropriate things do you want to say about this guy? And then look at my character who's just doing his thing out there, and he gets interrupted in the middle of a workout and with him and he brings his buddy with him like he's gonna try and
wait. Are you trying to be the victim here?
I'm not a victim. I'm just saying I'm not the bad guy. You need to reevaluate this movie, guys. Who is the guy that's not the good guy here? Would you ever be caught doing that, sniffing a girl's panties in front of her?
I hope
or trying to force yourself on her? Show up at some guy's workout and harass him?
That
Frank,
I may do.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time to talk about all Don's issues here right now. I think Don has been caught there a few times. So.
But they're usually in them though. That's.
But Vision Quest was that movie that I ran wrestling camps all during this time frame. When that came out, it's kind of going. That was the mainstay that usually on that Saturday night. You do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On that Saturday night after a grueling workout, stuff like that. They're all gonna get that popcorn out and stuff like that for them, and they're gonna be watching Vision Quest. Because that was a wrestler's movie right there. And you just can't help but just, set your goals, try to work hard, try to do things. But you get, I would have agreed with the way that the scenario, it kind of portrayed you as more like the evil character. But at the same time, as you express what you just said right there, I'm thinking, really, it makes more sense because you were just that invincible character that you were out there winning. A man of really of not a lot of words. You just put your work in, and then when you look at what the interaction was, other than the match itself, it just shows you, the first time just climbing up, going up these bleachers, with the log on your shoulder.
Yeah, with a log, because he had went out to the forest and destroyed a tree, an innocent tree that's just sitting there trying to make air for the people and the animals, and probably
there's probably a squirrel up in that
there.
tree.
Yeah,
there's a squirrel up in the tree, a bird's nest there too.
And
animal rights.
He ripped it down just to get a workout. What an evil!
What an evil man!
Don, I didn't realize you're such a tree hugger there, Don.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
You're gonna make women and half women or 3/4 women, whatever they are nowadays, make them cry all over the place.
or the he-she's do a lot of crying.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to know what side of the fence that they are.
It's just nobody can give a definition of a woman unless they're a biologist,
Yeah, and Webster just about got taken out for doing that. Wasn't there somebody went after the person that wrote the definition of a woman in Webster's dictionary?
Oh, really?
Somebody came after her. That's some crazy stuff out there.
Oh, there's nuts out there. People are nuts. It's insane. That's a good thing about this show.
Right. So now we're into 37 years of Vision Quests. That is just insane, right?
But isn't that cool? I mean, did you ever think that a movie like this, that you'd be getting still feedback and stuff like that about something like this particular movie? I mean, I don't know what other movies you've done, because we're going to delve into that, because I'm curious as to how you got picked for this role in the whole 9 yards. But did you do other movies before this first?
Before this, absolutely not. I was an athletic trainer at Eastern Washington University. And I was in pre-med, and so I was taking classes starting in the morning, lunch. Then I go to the training room, and I was there until late at night. We had to put in 4,000 hours. So besides my pre-med courses, then I was in the athletic training room for 4,000 hours. And then after I finished dinner, I'd go study for 2 hours, and then I'd go to the gym. And I was a bodybuilder for 3 years prior to this movie being shot. And so I had done about 2 years of bodybuilding prior to going to Eastern. And then I just really got into my bodybuilding, lifting. And I got up to 215 pounds. And that's when they connected with me. And the way you asked, how did I get found for that? Well, because they were filming in Spokane. There was one of the wrestlers that was going to school at Eastern Washington. He was supposed to be wrestling that semester, but he got a role in the movie. He's an extra. His name is Rick Thefault. And you'll see him in the back in the classroom. You'll see him in the back to the right-hand side, right behind Matthew, or you'll see him in the wrestling room. So he's in the movie as extra. And I was sitting there reading my textbook, and he came in to practice and said, "Hey, I'm in this movie, this wrestling movie in Spokane that they're shooting." And I said, "Oh, okay, great. The last movie they shot there was Why Would I Lie?" And I don't know if either one of you ever heard of that.
No.
Probably not. So I'm thinking like, oh, wow, a movie's going to get shot in Spokane. Good luck, pal. Then he's talking about the movie, and then he says, "You know what? They're still looking for somebody. 6 foot tall, blonde hair, muscular build that can wrestle." And he goes, "That's you." And I said, no. He says, no, you got to go check this out.
You're perfect for it. They only have 2 lines.
Yeah, well, he didn't even tell me they had lines. See, I just thought they need a wrestler. And I think, okay, I'm paying for my education. I'm going to go make some money and see how a movie gets made. I'll be a wrestler in the background. Perfect. So I go in for my audition. She hands me sides. And I'm like, wow, he never told me this. I've never had any practice. I've never done any theatrical or, drama classes. And so I just did what she told me to do. And when I messed up, I kind of laughed and thought I was, because I was nervous. And she goes, "We're looking for intensity here. If you mess up, you just continue on as if nothing happened. Got it?" I'm like, "Well, sure, okay."
Oh, wow.
There we go.
Right? Came down on you.
Yeah, she came down.
And she
didn't be more than she was about 5'2", little lady, but she was like, "This is what we're looking for." So I read the lines with her one more time. And so then she picked up her phone and called Harold Becker, who is the director, who's done some great films. I think read The Onion Field and He was Taps. He did, he kind of discovered, I think that was one of Tom Cruise's first movies where he was actually, had a major role, had a decent role in there. So that, Timothy Hutton, Sean Penn, I mean, come on, there's some great actors in there. Anyway, the director. So we walk over to his office. I walk in there and he looks at me and he goes, and he takes the sides out of my hand. He goes, you know the lines now. I've read the lines with her like 2 or 3 times max. Luckily, they're not big monologues, right? So I just somehow remember the lines. We did it. Great. He says, okay, let's see if you can wrestle. So then I had to go out and wrestle for Cash Stone, who was running that, all the wrestlers. And all those wrestlers, by the way, were state champions, former wrestlers for Meade, etc. So every one of those wrestlers in the wrestling room were wrestlers. And so that's part of what makes it real is you see wrestlers practicing. You get to see the practice room, what they're doing. You get to see the inside back, doing pull-ups and sit-ups and, moves, stuff that they have to do that, we just kind of take it for granted. They show up and wrestle, right? But they kind of showed how tough it is. And like she said, man, this room smells like, and they do.
Yeah.
First off,
don't smell too good.
It smells the same as the locker room. Yeah.
How warm was that wrestling room though?
That room was toasty. Everybody was sweating. Anyway, but it's, and that's what happens is when you close those doors and everybody starts working out, that room gets hot,
Yeah.
You don't even have to put heat in it.
Yeah. Usually I think Arizona State's wrestling room, I think was always set at a thermostat of around 90 some degrees.
Wow.
To where as you open that door, it's like going, you feel like you're starting to step inside of a sauna.
Yeah,
right.
It's nasty.
Right.
But I used to grade my workouts by how many gray shirts I would sweat through.
Right.
Standard would be 2. Now I don't mean just a little ring underneath the arms, a little ring around the neck. I mean, I'm talking about if you just pull out of the wash machine and it hasn't gone through the ringer here yet.
Yeah.
Or I should say ringer. That most young people know it hasn't gone through a spin cycle. There we go.
Right.
Spin
there
cycle.
You go.
And then but on a really hard workout, 3. I mean, it just socked right through to where I would lose between 7 and 10 pounds per workout, and I'm still drinking water.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Lose that much weight. So, yeah, intensity. Wrestlers are very intense athletes. A lot of workouts right there.
Now I ended up having to do 5 auditions for this. And so after I showed that I could wrestle and I actually had a mustache at the time, I shaved my mustache off. Then I had to come back and read for the producers that were flying up from LA. Now, so here's the deal. They had cast this role twice before. Neither one of those guys worked out. They're 2.5 weeks out. They have to find this character because they're going to shoot in 2.5 weeks. So the Nancy Klopper was the casting director, and she had cast these other 2 guys. They didn't work out. So she found another person in LA. His name is Frank Zagarino, who's done other movies as well. Had a good career there in LA, and tall, 6 foot, 6'1", lean, muscular, could wrestle. He actually had a good wrestling technique. So they flew him in. And so I had to come in and do the scene for the producers, which was Peter Goober and John Peters. And so I showed up, and so I'm having to convince them. They like this guy from LA. The director likes me. So I have to convince them I'm the guy, right? So I walk in over there, the hallway. Harold comes out, Harold Becker meets me in the hallway. He goes, when you come in here, he says, I want you to stay intense the entire time you're in here. Got it? He smacks me on the side of the face. And I just turned around and I go, got it. He goes, that's what we're looking for. So then I wait, a couple of shakes. They let me in, and I'm sitting there doing my dark, just keeping a straight face. Like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, you're a bleeder. Yeah, so I'm doing my lines with this woman who's reading the lines in front. And every time she finishes the lines, she goes like this, and so after I finished, I stayed in character. I finished, I walked out and said to my casting director, I said, did I look foolish? I mean, did I look ridiculous? I have no idea, right? And she goes, no, why? I said, well, because every time I did a line, she just kind of like rolled her eyes like it was completely stupid or ridiculous. She didn't know what I was doing. She goes, no. She wants her guy to get the role. She was trying to trip you up. I was like, oh, okay. So this shit is on, right? So now what's left is that guy went in and did the audition, and then we had to go to the set because the coach that had signed off on my wrestling abilities need to see this guy. So we go to the set, they stop filming, they have a mat there, the crew gets around, and so this guy and I step out on the mat, and the coach goes single leg, and I do a single leg, and then he does a single leg, double leg, and a duck under and a pull, and so we just went back and forth, back and forth. At one point he picked me up, and I knew he didn't have his balance quite right, so I just kind of leaned forward a little bit, and he kind of stumbled with me on his back, and I was like, this is how we're going to play this game, man. We're going to, I'm going to get my shot in here. And so when we finished, I waited about 10 minutes, then John Peters came over and he goes, okay, you got the role, kid. Very nice work. And every time I looked over and you were gritting and staring at me, he goes, that's what I'm looking for right there. So there it is.
Wow.
That was crazy.
What other movies you been in through the years?
So I ended up, leaving Eastern Washington. So I got to back up a little bit because I did Vision Quest. We shot for 10 weeks. I was at 215, as I mentioned to you. I was a bodybuilder and I was weighing 215 pounds. I see in the script, oh, they're wrestling at 168. I'm thinking, what the hell are they thinking I'm going to do with this? Right. So they said, you kind of need to drop some weight so you're closer to his size. So I go on a screaming tear, a cut like no other cut I've done before. And I dropped 25 pounds in 2.5 weeks.
Jeez.
Wow.
And I basically ate, like egg whites for breakfast. I had a salad with some tuna, a squeeze of lemon for lunch. And I got on an exercise bike for an hour for dinner. That's how I did for like the 2.5 weeks. And I dropped 25 pounds, 2.5 weeks. I was starving. I could actually feel my delts breaking down, cannibalizing, so they could actually feed my body because I was starving it,
Yeah, wow.
And I actually weighed in the human potential room at submerged in water. I weighed 4% body fat at that time. So we shot for 10 weeks. I stayed at that weight. Done. I went back to school. 3 months later, I get a call. Hey, we got one more scene to do. Yeah, you think that's funny? Now I'm at 217 because I've gotten back up after 3 months. I'm back to getting ready for this contest, bodybuilding contest. I'm at 217 now. So I tell the director, like, hey, I'm at 217. He goes, start dropping weight. And I said, okay, I had a month this time. So I got down to the weight. That was the weigh-in scene. So they added the weigh-in scene. I don't know if they didn't get it the first time or what happened. Didn't get it. Go back to school. 3 months later, I get a phone call. Hey, we got one more scene to do. Now I'm at 220. Now I'm at 225. And I said to him, I am not going down to 189 pounds. I will go down to 200. I'll drop 25 pounds, but I'm not going down any further than that. That was the bathroom scene where you're a bleeder, and I was wearing a jean jacket. So it covered up a little bit of my size. So that was the movie, and I went back to school. Waited. It came out the following year. I got a call from an agent. Hey, we like the work in the movie. We'd want to represent you. So that's when I went to LA. And I threw everything in my 280ZX, and everything fit. That's all I had. Fit in my 280ZX. Drove to LA. My brother was here, and I slept on the floor of his room in his house with this group of guys until I could find my own place. And I started taking acting classes, and I started going to class 4 nights a week, 6 to midnight. I did that for a year, and then I started going 5 nights a week, 6 to midnight for the next 2 years. And during that time, I got another movie, like a TV show, a national commercial, and I started working up at Universal Studios. I started doing a live action show called Conan. I don't know if you guys remember the Schwarzenegger movie, but they had a reenactment show up at Universal Studios called Conan Experience.
I don't remember that at all.
No.
The Conan Experience. Huh.
Yeah. So we got to fight with swords, and I wasn't actually Conan. I was actually just one of the swordsmen in this production. So, but it was a very cool event that they could do because they had it down to where the young Conan came out there, and he did a few things around the stage. And then he went out when he was being threatened by this Eye of Mordor, whatever. He went out onto this platform, and there was a sword there. So he's going to grab the sword. So he picks his sword up and he stands there like this. And then this white air mist comes up and blows up like this. And then all of a sudden it drops and he's changed. He's now this big Conan. So it does transformation right on stage there that it really kind of was cool. So that's what I did for another 2.5 years. But I just felt like I just burnt myself out. I wasn't taking good care of myself. I was doing the actor thing, meaning I was not sleeping enough, not eating enough food, not taking good care of myself. I was doing things around the clock. I was working at UPS graveyard shift, to make ends meet. So I would go midnight to 8, fall asleep, get up, go to my auditions. Then at like 6 o'clock, I would go to my acting class. So I'd be 6 to midnight acting class, midnight to 8 in the morning, like working. So I just kind of burnt myself out. So I walked away from it, got myself an education, went back to studying health. And so I got a master's degree in Oriental Medicine. And my wife and I started a clinic for last 27 years in Pacific Palisades. So I had no connection to the wrestling community for almost 27 years. Then my friend Scott Glab asked me to come and hand out some trophies and some, medals to his tournament. That started back into the wrestlers world. And then I started making some shirts and started promoting the, US World Cup there in Los Angeles. And that's how I got started back connecting to the wrestlers. And for the last 5-6 years, it's been a lot of fun.
Wow.
Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, just live that lifestyle of the starving actor. I mean, you were living the lifestyle of that starving actor, where it's like going, these gigs don't come along just all the time. You have some long dry spells. I mean, did you have an agent that was working on your behalf, or?
Oh yeah, I had everybody that was there. I had a manager, an agent, I actually had a modeling agent as well. So at a commercial agent and a theatrical agent, I had all the guys, and they're getting me out there. And I started to do really good in some of the auditions, but it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and go wrestle in an MMA match if you've never, been trained? So I had to go through the whole training. Did it backwards. I got the big movie, and then I went in to do training. But anyway, like I said, I love doing the live show up at Universal Studios. That was a lot of fun because then you get the instant response back. And I love doing acting classes. I mean, because we had to I put something up every single night. Something I was working on, some play or some monologue or something. You're always working. And you're there from 6 to midnight, and you're not always on the stage. So you got to sit there and watch other people do their thing too, So long days, long nights.
Wow. Well, don't envy that. Well, again, I mean, both Dad and I shared the long days, long nights, but just in different types of ways of how we've had to travel and how we've had to, like the lifestyle of a professional wrestler. I mean, as you were actually describing what you're doing, it reminded me a lot of the career of most professional wrestlers. I mean, you're always on the road traveling. You're, at the time I was working with the WWF at the time, I think the average worker was working 200 plus dates a year.
Wow.
And I mean, when you add travel in, travel to, travel back from, you're on the road more than what you ever at home.
Yeah.
And in each day that you're waking up in a new city, and then you have to get from one city to the next city to the next city because you're doing a live you're doing a live Monday Night Raw, and then there's a Tuesday night taping that you're doing someplace else, usually in the same area. But it's not an easy lifestyle. Anything that you're trying to do in the acting area. I didn't know what you had gone through with this, and I simply, first time that I had a chance to speak with you, I learned a lot about your nutritional background and what you're doing currently, and to me that really intrigued me a lot right there, because you do a lot with holistic type medicines too, don't you?
Yeah, well, I have a master's degree in Oriental Medicine. I've been fascinated with nutrition ever since I started bodybuilding, because it's a big part of bodybuilding, and as wrestlers should be at the forefront of nutritional knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, because we've been doing this way too long, way too stupid, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you think about the way, I don't know if you wrestled in high school, or Don, if you wrestled in high school, but they just did stupid things. They would drop, like 10, 15 pounds, like right before the match. They would dehydrate, they would, diet really hard. Then they would be up exercising all night to make weight. And it's like, hey, you're going to battle and you're going to like dehydrated, you're depleted, and haven't got enough rest, and you don't have enough nutrition. How are you going to perform? It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Right?
Yeah, I cut weight. One time I had to cut 20 or 17, 20 pounds. Every other week I do it, because one year I wrestled 167 and 190, and myself and Dennis. Geez, now I can't remember Dennis's last name. God dang it! From Arizona State, and we would switch. 67, 90. Just, I don't know, whoever coach thought this guy, I could beat this guy, and Dennis could beat this guy, and then the next week I could beat, so that's how that went.
So I've reframed that, hopefully, and I think that we spoke a little bit about this, but I worked with Nick Siriano for over a year, leading up to the NCAAs, and we really refined his diet to just be so specific. And we're able to come in with a certain kind of awareness, knowledge, shifting from a glycogenic kind of a format of like carb loading before a match to being more ketogenic, adapted. We don't keep them in ketosis the whole time. It's in and out. So you'll do intermittent fasting, be in state of ketosis, train really hard. That actually activates your HGH. It gives your body a chance to burn every bit of fat for energy. If you do that, if you train at the end of your intermittent fast, then we also would then give him some carbs midday. So you start to kind of get the depletion, get the glycogen back in the body. But then we would kind of redo this at time and time again. And so his body's going down, but he's not burning muscle. He's not breaking down his muscle. He doesn't have to be completely dehydrated. We brought in specific ketone esters. I brought in molecular hydrogen molecular water. I'm doing these high-end electrolytes that are marine-based plasma. So it's like this everything. Every hour we had him taking a specific nutrient, prepping. And then as soon as he finished, we would feed his body back again. And if you look at him, not only did he have his power, his endurance, his speed, but he was also sweating during the matches. You look at that kid, he was still sweating. So you knew he wasn't dehydrated either.
Yeah, like I say, most wrestlers are just like you said before there, Frank, that they starve themselves. I've actually watched weigh-ins where the athlete is standing on the scales and literally he is out. He's standing there, and the coaches actually have like their fingers pointed out, just trying to keep him balanced so he doesn't tip more left or right, and just trying to make weight. And I've witnessed that many times. And but I bounce a lot of like weight, the way that Don said, that on a weekly basis that you're doing a competition almost every weekend somewhere, or you might have a Wednesday night dual meet, then you gotta weigh in for a Saturday tournament or something like that. So it was always kind of tough to maintain that light weight class, because in high school I played football at 2 1/4 and I wrestled at 185.
Yeah.
By the time you get to college, I mean, just like you just said, I wanted to educate myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I took a nutrition class, so I know that everything I put in my body is going to make me the ultimate wrestler. Taking a weightlifting class so that I knew how to design weightlifting programs for wrestling. Taking a judo class so I can learn to use my feet like an extra pair of arms. And just by doing all that stuff, it worked for me. Because I did very, very well for myself my freshman year. But then it's but the weight cutting, it just you're always bouncing, because they're, that in the off season, I build a lot more heavier lifting weight. So now in the off season, I might be getting up to around 250, and now getting down to the 190-pound weight class.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. And you know what? You can do it, but you have to really give your body that time. I tell people, it's like, you know, it depends. If you got 10 pounds, if you get more than 10 pounds, you need to have at least 2 months, if not more, to get down and be at your set weight. That's what I reckon. You want to be out there at 2 weeks at your weight and be like locked into that weight, understand that weight and how you can move up and down from that, prepping into the match, you know? So, you know, this is where we have to go. We have to go with better knowledge about how to do that the right way, so we don't have somebody standing on the scale about ready to pass out, or they're completely dehydrated, because it takes about 3 days to completely rehydrate. So you're not going to get that back in there. And so it's like, you're not going to be at your level. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to different posts in Facebook where I did really good. And then I did this really hard cut for this thing. And then I had no energy and I completely got destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, duh. So we need to change that. We need to change the mentality from the coaches, the kids, the parents. You need to have everybody on board and understand this.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.